2023. And let's just run right into the workshop. I've been requested to do the pledge and the roll call. Oh, we can do the roll call, but we'll do the pledge during the regular part of the meeting.
Mayor Rose.
Mayor Rose.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Frampus.
Here.
Councilmember Bentley.
Here.
Councilmember Young. Councilmember Ditmore. Councilmember McDowell. Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum. Mr. City Manager, tonight we're going to do the budget workshop, our second meeting, refine the strategic city council priorities. Run with it.
Mayor and members of the council, good evening. In keeping with tradition of council priorities for the upcoming 23-24 budget, we are here this evening to combine two of our traditional budget workshops, budget priorities and budget revenues, into this evening. Before you on the other table to my left or to your right are the budget priorities that were listed. Up to you guys if you want to add some or not before we get started, but we have the stickers. Each council member will get 10 stickers, and you can put your stickers in the priority items that you feel are important for the council to roll into the 23-24 budget. We'll evaluate the projects. Some of them are policies, some of them are projects. Evaluate them as we go in through the budget process, and then try to obviously stack rank prioritize them and see how many we can get done in the 23-24 budget. So I don't know if Mayor, if there's a specific set of rules you would like to follow for said stickers.
I'm just trying to figure out why do we have stickers.
So you get 10 stickers, and you get to put 10 stickers next to any of the priorities you would like.
Or on the priority.
Yeah.
No rules.
Can we have a meeting about the stickers? No. Have you ever done stickers before?
Several times.
Okay, and how'd that work for you?
It's a traditional process to get a group of people who have many different opinions to consolidate their thoughts into one direction.
We've done this before.
How come you have 20?
Because I BYOB.
Haven't we done this before? Another budget meeting? We
have, and then we quit doing it because
And then we quit doing it.
it got became a real sticky situation,
Okay.
I guess. So. But we can do whatever. So
the items without stickers are not just not.
The idea being everybody has put their ideas forward from the last council meeting, and some of them will be a consensus of the group, and some of them will just be individual priorities that may not make the round this time, and some of these might have been items that didn't make the round last time or the time before that. So in order to get a group of people to move in one direction, this is a time-tested methodology. I think the only rule challenge that I would put out to the mayor for clarification is whether you can put all your stickers on one item, or if the idea is to put your stickers on 10 different items.
also, well,
Since you have 10 stickers.
I mean, the fallacy to this is like, let me pick one. We want to keep taxes low. Am I going to waste it? I mean, that's kind of an automatic, right? Are we going to waste 7 stickers on that? I mean, and if we didn't get any stickers, that means we're not going to do that?
It's the priority of the council. You guys pick. This is your opportunity to voice your...
Well, but before we do that, does anybody have anything they want to add?
Oh, thank you.
Are these in the same order as we have it on our sheet?
Oh, that I don't know. I didn't check with Cynthia if they are...
But I can put them in order.
It doesn't matter.
She's going to double check that the 3 sheets are in the 3 orders of your...
I meant, is sidewalks for tennis courts, is that Is that the first, is that one of them? Okay.
He's saying there's 3 sheets to the wind.
What's that? That's the last.
So it is in the order that they are listed.
In your booklet.
They're in that order. Any preference on one sticker per item per member, or all stickers on one item if you want to stack the deck?
I think it's your sticker, do what you want. But I don't know.
All right. I yield the floor.
But just because something gets the most stickers, we're still going to vote on it as a group to see if that's the priority, right?
So the priorities do come back in the budget process, and if that's not a desired priority, that's up for the council to decide.
So you can get outvoted after winning the vote. Whatever. It'll work out.
John and I are putting all our stickers on the fire department.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, there's 4 of us, so.
And I like the way they had that discussion.
We're in session.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's 4 of us, so we can put ours on some things. Are we going to do it?
No, Steve, you can't have any of my stickers.
All right. Okay. Are we going? Let's go. Okay.
Come on.
Yes. We're going. I'm bringing up my mark sheet.
No, I need extra stickers.
20 years of it.
I marked them up already.
And we'd know, too, because you have your initials on them.
All right. What are we looking for, John?
All right, swallow my name, all right? Everybody, all our stickers on.
There's no sticker blocking. There's no sticker blocking. City clerk, right? Yeah, that's the one I've been working on. Not all of them are documents. Some of them are policies, and if you don't mark them, there we go. There's a suggestion.
It's underneath, it's a little thing underneath your desk, right? Just put it in there, circular file. I'll do a crosswalk in your hand. Oh, man, they've got our initials on those things.
It's going to be a tiebreaker.
You want to be the tiebreaker? You always do. Take your time.
Don't save the money. Don't save the money. Don't save the money. The first 25 mil first. There you go, 25.
He's up.
I still have 4 left. I'm not using them.
You're not gonna do them?
No, I did them. I put 6 out.
The other 4?
No, because it's wasting. It's things that we can put carpet down. We don't need a sticker for that. We can continue to focus on low tech, so we don't need a sticker for that. Yeah.
Council can make sure that we do that. So
Yeah, audio crosswalk at Hammock Landing, what the hell is it?
it's discussed with us.
Oh, I must have fallen asleep. Audio crosswalk at Hammock Landing. Audio,
The group that she meets with, where they want to be audio crosswalk, but seeing it.
okay.
We put Minton and Norfolk, so it's audio, so you can hear when you're supposed to.
Oh,
I want one up at so people from phones that will.
I think we can do that anyway. I don't think we need a, yeah, we'll do that anyway.
But it was a suggestion.
Yep.
What's local businesses and residents? What was the thought there?
I'm missing all good discussion.
We absolutely care about them. I don't know what the focus was. Do we remember what it was? Improve communications with local businesses and residents.
Well, no, I actually,
Line there.
I'll go with that. Deputy Mayor, on that communication, what I was referring to was more about messaging, making sure.
But it says, it wasn't together, it's what, improve communications with local businesses. Okay.
Did you get everything
10 stickers. It doesn't mean you don't support other things.
Police services, anything having to do with public safety.
Look, as a public safety service volunteer, include public safety.
He's doing much better. He was out for a little while today. Can't be out for long. Arrived at the hotel from the parking lot to the room. Everyone made it. Yeah, he pretty much sat home and watched TV.
John, let's double up. Let's double him up.
I knew he would.
I can move it.
All right, then I'll take ours off. Healthy reserve. Everybody wants healthy.
We need someone to run the meeting. We can't leave us on our own.
You say too much testosterone down there.
That's not what she said.
So no double count.
You're gonna take the flag out with you?
Taking down the United States.
All right, let's do this.
Extra stickers?
Yeah?
He's on his second 10.
Yeah, he's got some RH.
That's his second 10. That's special.
Is this your seat that you used all the time?
Take pictures first because you're going to lose dots.
That was exciting.
It was kind of fun.
Kinda.
Reminds me when we had our little workshop and we had to do all those little.
Oh, no, I hate those things at Harris.
All right.
Oh, I hated those.
All right, so everybody finished their stickers, even though it was fun to do. I don't know that the results are
100%, man.
indicative of really what is the goals of the council, but we'll find out.
I don't want to
City
believe.
manager, anything else, or is that it today?
That's it.
So moving on to, Cynthia will get a picture of these to make sure we capture them, but put these together, roll them up, and stack rank them so that everybody can see the list of priorities, including the picture. So with that, we move to the absolute favorite part of the budget meeting process, which is revenues. Who doesn't like talking about revenues? And so I'm going to ask our finance director, Candace Blake, to join coming up and put together our projection of revenues moving in. The biggest caveat I just want to add, we do put a number in for ad valorem property taxes. Obviously, this is not a number we're proposing. In Brevard County, they have identified West Melbourne with 2% growth. So we just put a 2% number, but if you don't put a number in this category, it throws the revenue projection so far off that it becomes hard to read. And so for the sake of the budget process, we just fit in a number for you guys to be able to use so that it doesn't complicate being able to look at the sum of all the revenues. And so happy to either go through them, or if there's anyone that has any questions or line items, but our revenue projections are put in here for projected 23-24 budget.
Deputy Mayor Frampus?
School resource officers, I didn't think we had them. I thought we were doing that.
Cut and paste.
No.
It says we're going to have
No.
$114,000.
That's a zero value. If you go all the way to the right, it's zero for school resource officers.
So my apologies. So let's go through the chart just so that everybody's looking at it the same way, because it is in very small font. At least mine is in very small font. starting on the left, which I'm sure the council doesn't care per se, but we have our account number, which we identify items as. We have the name of the account, and then we have the historic 2021 budget and 2021 actual, and then we go 2021, 22, 2022, 23, and then 2024, 2023, 24 at the end. And so, nope, not a problem. We just want to make sure, what we do is we put what we budgeted and then what we actually received so that you can kind of evaluate how things, obviously good plans don't always come together, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, so.
Do we think house prices will go up or down?
We continue to see strong housing in Brevard County, so we would anticipate that they would continue to slightly rise.
So without having to sit through all this, is there anything we're losing or gaining this year as opposed to next year?
Yeah, a couple of the highlights, our franchise revenue for garbage we put an increase to it because we can, while we don't know what the new rate's going to be, we can guess that it's going to go up. So 10%, since we get 10% franchise fee, it's safe to assume. FP&L had their increase, and so it's safe to assume we're going to have an increase in the FP&L portion because they went up. So some of those are kind of not pass through, but easier to predict, including our growth. There's just more property, more commercial property. So we put an increase. The other one, which is hard and we tend to lean pretty conservative, is the interest income. Interest income for going back 15 years was phenomenal for local governments, then went down to nothing, and then for a while for many years was nothing, and now we're seeing it really come back strong, and so we still have a very conservative number plugged in for interest income, but that's definitely a revenue source for us now that.
What number are you using?
For the most part, over last year's budget, we went about a 200% increase, which doesn't sound conservative, but last year was extremely conservative. And we're looking at just halfway through the year receiving about 350% of what we anticipated. So I didn't want to go the full, 300 to 500,000 or percent, that we're expecting for this year for next year. So we just went with kind of a 200% increase to be able to capture that, but also stay a little conservative. So it sounds like it's a lot, but the dollar value itself, I think one went from like 40,000 to 80,000, and we've already received well over that. So just kind of for that one.
It's like under 1%, now it's gonna be up to like 4 or something.
Yeah, we had some investments that were $0 coming in, and then now we're coming in at 4.5% and things like that. So
you're being very conservative, we can all know that that's way, way off. How about the other revenues? Because I know we squirrel away extra, so we always have a positive on the end, so we look good, but for management purposes, do we have extra? I'm trying to get a handle of what we really think we'll have.
So most of the revenues, when they were put in here, when you might see higher increases or decreases, things like that, based off of year over year. So for some of them that are a little bit higher right now, if you look over the last several years, that's the same amount we've received. So our budget was always a little bit lower. So there are times where I kind of try to true up a little bit to what's actually happening that would fix that. But for the most part, we did stay relatively conservative, because revenues are one of those things you really don't want to overestimate too much. So.
Yeah. And the city manager alluded to our ad valorem. What number we're using for that, for this?
So for the ad valorem, I just plugged in a 2% increase on that one based off of the Brevard County's projection of what we've done. We won't get any, even our preliminary numbers don't come in until June and then July. So that one's kind of I wouldn't take it at face value.
I guess I meant to say, what about our millage? Are we basing it on a same millage we have, or?
Yeah, we're not proposing any millage, just had to plug in a number. Otherwise, if you leave a gap of 5.2 million, the revenues don't come out. So we put a 2% growth because the preliminary numbers from the county are saying we grew about 2%.
Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. In terms of the last page of the revenues report, a couple questions in terms of the, just a note I noticed on the insurance reimbursements. We have currently nothing that's slotted in terms of expectations. Are those not notes from the previous years, you know, last year's any insurance reimbursements to then project to this year's? Or are we anticipating currently zero, and if we have any, that would then be a bonus?
Yeah, part of our challenge is, other than our day-to-day operations that get insurance reimbursements, which are just hard to predict. You know, squad car gets rear-ended by somebody, goes through insurance, we eventually get paid, that kind of stuff. Knock on wood, haven't had a light on 192 go down in a while, that kind of stuff. The big items we put through the FEMA process, and we know it'll be several years to get that FEMA reimbursed from last year's hurricane. So it's just kind of a hard to plug a number, because it's, you know, the good news is any number that would go in there would be, unfortunately, would be an expense side number going out. So it's kind of a wash account.
Okay, so FEMA reimbursements go in that section as well?
So, yeah, we are in the queue for FEMA reimbursements, but I've seen it as long as 3 years, seen it faster, seen it slower.
Do we have any more outstanding other than storms from last year?
No, right now our FEMA queue is the storms from last year.
Okay. And in terms of the water connection and the sewer connection revenues, I was just comparing this past usage to what the projection is for this next year. Does that keep in mind projects that are in kind of the building and permit pipeline for things like that may be connected for new constructions, or that potential, you know, annexations or things like that would be coming into the city? How are we getting to those numbers?
Yeah, it does factor some growth, but keep in mind, we don't have a large impact fee on water and sewer connections. We have our fees, but we don't have like what Melbourne has, where if a new apartment building comes to town, we could write as big, you know, the developer could write to us, in which turn we turn over to Melbourne, $650,000. We don't have those set up for our utilities.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. Candace, just clarification here, because I heard you say true up, so you've been using some kind of projection. Are these variable numbers, or how many of them are actually straight line costs that you kind of know? I'm trying to get my arms around the process. Are these annualized numbers that because it's not fiscal, because we're not at the end of the year,
So there is a column in there that's our year-to-date percentage, and so for some of those, this was done through March 31st, so at that point I had 6 months of data. So pretty much anything you could double to see, estimating where we're at. Again, you have a lot of things that are heavy at the beginning of the year or heavy at the end of the year. So for some of them where if the percentage didn't make sense to be around 50% to me or anything, I would go back, I would look at history and see kind of when we would take those revenues in. So a lot of it's variable, because a lot of it depends on what we do, you know, how many people buy things, stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that any of our revenues are fixed, I guess, because everything depends on volume.
It'd be nice if they were. They'd make it simple. My concern is that you are relatively new to this, and I hold you in high regard, so please don't take that wrong. But the reality is experience, and sometimes we can only do the best that we possibly can. The sales part of that is flat, and maybe I missed that because I was looking at the numbers. Did we address why it's zero?
The sales of what?
The sales revenue that we get. Where is it? Sales tax, half cent, U.S. State revenue sharing, your account number 3350500.
The state revenue numbers come out in July timeframe. So at that point, I put kind of where we were at, since that looked to be about where we were at for this year, and then we'll have a better number when they provide that information to us.
Okay, so that's it's just unusual that you had zero, and I thought, interesting.
So, yeah, state revenues are going to be off of an equation, off of the dollar amount that they put into the state budget.
And at the risk of being laughed at, what's restitution? What is that?
Payback.
Go. Chief, you're up. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so it's restitution for if somebody, local violation and they damage, let's say they damage one of our stop signs and we go through the process and get restitution, it would come in through there. There's some other categories that I've seen over the years, different items come into, but it's not a big account for us.
No, it's not. And it was just, I was just curious why it was up at 64,000 if it was only operating at 25. I didn't know what happens or if that's a variable, if it's, okay, thank you.
So items like a kid drives into a tree, we settle on a dollar amount and we get our restitution. So it doesn't go through insurance because maybe we didn't make that claim or for whatever reason doesn't go through insurance.
But currently, we're at 45. We're expecting around 64 next year, so whatever that amounts to. I'm not encouraging people to go out there and do stuff, but I just was curious what that was. Thank you.
State revenue sharing, where are you seeing zero?
I'm talking about the zero on the percentage of variance on the budget side for next year.
Percentage change. He's
Yes.
saying 0%.
I'm looking at what was, what's going to be, and why is there a difference? And how are we arriving at that?
Yeah, and those are items that are hard to predict. Sometimes we'll get an indication from the state a couple of weeks before they release it that they're going up. Sometimes things can change, and when we grow and get more acreage, we know our state aid will increase. But
I like zero because it's more on a conservative side.
yeah, it's a tough one to predict.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Very conservative. There's such a thing. There is such a thing, guys. You can be fiscally responsible. Oh, turned off my mic. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Mr. City Manager, what do you have next?
So I just to wrap up the revenues, we continue to be extremely successful in grants and have added some grant revenue, which kind of skews the number. So it can be sometimes hard when you look at all the revenues to compare apples to apples this year to last year when we get some grant revenue coming in. We try to predict. We obviously we know the dollar amount of grants that we have, but we try to use this to predict the amount of those grants that we'll be able to construct and pay for during the budget cycle. So we might have an $8 million grant for a project at the sewer plant, but we may only be able to spend $4 million of that next year during the budget cycle to get it in the ground and pay the contractor. So that becomes a little bit of a balance as well. And so I think Finance Director Blake did a phenomenal job putting these numbers together, and clearly they will. This is one of the items that will slightly adjust as we get confirmation and try to keep them up to date. But certainly if anything significant changes, we would bring it to the attention. But if the state lets us know that it's going to be a 1% increase, we just change it, add in the 1% increase.
So basically, it looks like revenues are kind of flat, right? I mean, we're not tearing it up because of,
A 14.7% increase?
well, when you compare that to what inflation is and all our projects are coming in way over budget. So I guess I'm looking at the big picture. When we get to that part, we have to live within our means. So even though revenue is up there, our projects are pretty high, water plants and everything else cost. All the sewer projects and all those are coming in way over, road costs and all that. So I'm just trying to get a handle on when the revenue is way up and prices were really good, we put a lot of money away. So do we have a handle on how much we're going to be putting into reserve?
No, just this is the revenue projection budget.
Right. When do we get the other side of that coin?
If you scroll up just a few sheets, you will see the updated budget calendar for 23-24 budget. Oh boy, I'm a year behind. 23-24 budget. Next meeting, we'll of course be talking about our CDA and putting our CDA items together. We move into capital and try to finalize capital, and then in June we get into the operating budget. The good news is by then we'll have some final numbers from the state and can start talk about tax rate and expenditures. So we get into the meat of it in June as always, and then try to set it in the late July, early August, and then set the hearings to get approvals.
I forgot. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Anyone else?
Looks like we're in good shape.
Deputy Mayor Frampus is back with us.
I don't know if you saw the report or not. I believe I just read something about that they're anticipating inflation or the inflation numbers to come down, the CPI to come down, and it was going to be significant and come down to a reasonable level. I think 4s or 5s or something. Have you heard anything about that, or is it?
Yeah, I have not seen it come down that far. I think we have plateaued and we are slowly, like 0.5% at a time.
Not like overnight.
Yeah, not like the way, not like how she shot up.
That it wasn't going to be consistently high and it was rapidly going to come down to a.
We according to the sources that you check for things like this, we have peaked and we are slowly coming down, but not anticipated to see a dip like it at the speed of which it went up.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that we've capped out.
I think part of the issue is the banking industry right now is kind of putting a scare in everything. In fact, the T-bills went up 0.5 point today, which is the first time they've jumped. They went to 5.5%. You can get for 4 weeks, by the way. So if you want to tie your loose money up for 4 weeks, you can get 5.5% on it, guaranteed by the federal government.
Up to.
As of today.
2%.
Up to.
Huh?
Up to how
Up
much?
to no limit.
Oh.
And I don't want to
We're
waste
limited
time,
here.
but the great thing about it is these you can buy them any duration of time you want. You can ladder them, but you can get 5.5% at 4 weeks, and they put it back in your checking account automatically when they're done with it at the end of that 4 weeks. So you don't even have to do paperwork. You just go to the savings bond website, do T-bills 4 weeks if that's what you choose. You'll get 5.5%. As of today, it jumped 0.5 point, and in 4 weeks they put it back in your checking account, and you decide whether you want to do it again. Pretty unbeatable.
So it's a good segue. I'm not sure, we do have some newer council people on, so just to clarify, we keep cash in our quote-unquote checking account for operating expenses with the city, and then we have 3 investment pools that are approved by the state that we have equal dollar amount in the 3 different investment pools that are out there. But I would have to check to see if we're getting 5.5%.
As of today,
Candace is like,
4 weeks.
Well, the statements just came out yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to look at them. So follow up with me later this week.
we'll take a look. That's interesting.
Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. I think something to consider as we're, looking at the first draft of what we're expecting for revenues is when we talk about projects that we want to prioritize for this year. I think it's important to remember where we're at right now as far as the inflation rate, and try to make the best decision with that information, because I think it would be great if we do see that rate decrease slowly over time. That can only mean positive things for the overall budget and for the projects that we'd like to get done for this year. But I think being on the more conservative side with that is going to be better for the city in the long run.
Yeah, if I could echo with that, we are finally starting to see pipe prices have stabilized, and the more important part is availability has come back. So the challenges that we used to have with just getting the pipe has disappeared. We're back to a month out for specialty pipe, which is not as good as it was back in the day, but way better than 6 to 9 months waiting for pipes to come in. So the good news is that's coming back. We fully anticipate that once that is back to normal, so will the price. So I don't think we'll see prices like we did 3 or 4 years ago, but hopefully we can get them down a little bit.
All right. Anything else on that end? No. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
2 items for this evening.
Then we'll recess this meeting and start again at 6 o'clock for the regular scheduled city council meeting. It's 5:43.